Hey, in this episode we are going to talk about how this really cool Cafe Racer seat came to be, and I also would like to mount this 1.5-inch oil pressure gauge on the engine. Welcome to Urban Monk TV. So let's talk about how this super cool Cafe Racer seat came to be, and frankly this would apply to any seat. It doesn't have to be a Cafe Racer. This one just happens to be, but mostly there's some sort of backing board and then some foam and upholstery and perhaps a pattern. So my good friend, if you follow my channel, you know him as Rodney. He has Allison Sails and Canvas in North Carolina, and he is a wizard with a sewing machine. And he has ridden up to the Quail with me the last 2 times. If you've watched those videos, I'll put a link down below. But avid motorcyclist, really knowledgeable mechanic. He knows his way around a toolbox, he knows his way around a sewing machine, and he was the man for this job. And so while I'm doing everything I possibly can myself, I mean everything, on this bike, the seat was the one thing that I handed over to someone else only because he is a good, dear friend, and I know he was going to do a far better job than I was. But let's look at what he did. Perhaps you want to tackle doing a seat like this yourself. Otherwise, you can send it to Rodney and he'll do it for you.
So I've just got the seat just sitting here right now because I'm still doing electrical work and not ready to permanently mount it down.
So I sent him just that wooden pan at the base, and he did this work. He had sent me some swatches, and we had talked about color. When he came here to ride to the Quail with me, he also saw the bike, saw the paint job on the tank, so he knew kind of where I was going with that, and we just talked about it. And that was all he needed. What he needed to do, unfortunately, was undo some of my mistakes. One of the difficulties we ran into was this section right here. As you know, with me, lines are important, and he was trying to make me a comfortable seat, to his credit. But I wanted to make sure that we came sweeping along here and that there wasn't any sort of an interruption here. Take a look at this photo. Obviously, along the way, we had a little difficulty with maintaining the line, but Rodney and I talked that one through. We had to make some compromises. Is this the most comfortable seat I will ever sit on? Nope, not at all. But that's not what this bike is about. This thing's an art project. It's going to be reasonably comfortable for what it is. But we are probably not going to take this one on the Grand Tour. Also, the foam that we chose, Rebond foam, is a dense, a little bit denser material. It's still an open cell foam, as they call it, but really good for motorcycles, snowmobile, maybe even automotive seats. Just if you use like that green or the white foam that you'll get at the craft store, it's way too soft. And if you get some of that like really hard, dense gray stuff that they make anti-fatigue mats for the garage floor out of, it's a little too dense. This Rebond foam is a nice compromise in the middle, and it should hold up over a long period of time.
So I've just got the seat just sitting here right now because I'm still doing electrical work and not ready to permanently mount it down. But this seat has got a wonderful green stitching that ties in nicely with the green stripe that I've used. And Rodney did just such a better job than I would have done. I mean, case in point here, I wouldn't have been able to do that. This hole, he could tell you even the name of this thing. But this has got some sort of a cord inside of it, and he's wrapped that around, sewed it underneath. There's little details here that I just wouldn't have even known to do.
I can give a little insight into how these are created because Rodney was kind enough to send along a little bit larger version that I have the option of stapling down here if I want to, but you can see in here that essentially it's just you know, an elastic cord, like bungee cord material, and he's wrapped the upholstery around it and then just sewed it.
And nice little touches like his tag, and underneath he's done, I believe this is called a French stitch. Oh, I hope I got that right. Sorry, my other camera's beeping.
So I bought myself this cool little oil pressure gauge that reads up to 100 psi. It is completely mechanical, so it doesn't require an electric sending unit, and just has regular pipe thread here. So here's where I want to mount this thing on the GS550. The place to mount this is right here. This little plug is actually a service port in the oil passageway to where a service station could plug in you know, an external gauge that would be on a section of hose and just check oil pressure during a repair or a maintenance visit to the dealership. But we can remove this, and I'd like to put a 90-degree on that and just mount this thing here so that I can see it from the riding position. I won't be able to read the numbers necessarily, especially with my eyes, but I will at least be able to see the needle and its position, and I'll know that I'm at about 50 straight up, 50 psi, and you know, if I start getting down there, it'll alert me to a problem before it happens. And you know, this isn't like any great discovery here of mine. A lot of people decide to mount their oil pressure gauge like this, but I think it has a cool aesthetic to it. I don't know if you can see down there, but that passageway runs completely through laterally the base of the cylinder bank, and when the engine is running, that will be completely full of oil, forcing oil up this passageway to the top of the engine, where it then is fed to the journals on the two cams. And now we got to go from this thread to this thread and bend it 90 degrees. So off to the hardware store. Okay, so here's what I've determined about this plug is we are Al 13.8. That's a 14 millimeter bolt essentially, and then the thread pitch is 1.25. So we're 14 by 1.25. I have gone on eBay and all of my other usual sources to find an adapter that is male 14 by 1.25 to female 1/8 inch NPT, and I cannot find it. So what I'm going to have to do is tap my own threads into a plug like this. This plug, I think I'm going to just keep it as it is. I've ordered another 14 millimeter by 1.25 thread oil plug that's made of aluminum, that's real cheap, and then I'll be able to drill that and tap it to 1/8 NPT threads pretty easily. The only problem is it's coming from China off eBay, so I'm going to have to wait a while on this. But again, that'll be male 14 1.25 to female 1/8 inch NPT, and it'll essentially be, you know, this, and that'll screw into the side of the engine, and that's how that's going to work. So we wait, but we've learned a lot, and you can see how to check which pitch thread you're dealing with. Get one of those off eBay. Cheap, 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 and useful.
And so if you have a project where you need some upholstery work done for your seat, and it really doesn't even need to specifically be a motorcycle, Rodney is a really good resource, a very talented guy. I'll say a few things about Rodney's experience and his skills. As evidence of Rodney's breadth of skills, here are some images of some of the work he does for sailboats. He does bimini tops, he does sail covers, he does some work with, you know, bimini side covers where there's actually an acrylic sheet there. So Rodney does other types of seats also. Here are some photos of other work that he has done. This is some work he's done for his Ducati Monster, seat that he did for that, and here is a seat that he did for a customer. They live near the Tail of the Dragon twisty road, and so this customer wanted a custom dragon on the back of the seat. This is for a BMW. So Rodney has more than one arrow in his quiver, so to speak. He's a really capable guy. So with that, this video is a wrap. We'll just call it a seat video, and we dabbled in the oil pressure gauge, but we're making progress. I do have a goal now set in mind for when I will be finished with this cafe racer. There is a pretty big motorcycle show coming up in the spring, so I've got a few months yet, but I've at least set myself a goal. I don't have a lot of time every week to work on the bike, but I think I can make this goal, and so I'm going to put it on the calendar and shoot for it. I'll hold off on what that goal is just in case something gets in the way and I have to postpone, because there's a lot of things like family and work I got to take care of first before this. And so I have to make it a secondary priority, or third or fourth, or kind of down the list there. Sorry guys. Hey, if you like what I'm doing, please give me a thumbs up, and subscribe if you want to become an urban monk and support my channel. Thank you.